got your on investment. You made some store of value. It's got this crypto you can hold. That is.
I mean,
it's
from
almost
that,
a no-brainer right now, man.
Build another place. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Is like you could just crack. The problem is going to be all this energy, like because right now you're going to fight. This whole thing's going to fight against propaganda. It's going to be about global warming and such like that. And I'm already. It's tricky because some of the same people I get to invest in this are investing in a green, essentially a green company. You know what I mean? That I'm trying to work on, and these guys have been helping me actually. And so it's going to be interesting to kind of try to come up with a energy efficiently responsible business model for crypto mining.
Yeah. You were on the right track. The solar. Most of the big guys are doing solar on some level, whether it's compensating for what they got or they're doing that where they're, what do you call it? I don't know if it's called subsidized, where you're getting a stupidly discounted rate from the local company. They're saying, oh, you're this big. Well, instead of you paying 10 cents a milliwatt hour or whatever it is, we're going to charge you 1 cent,
Yeah.
So at that point, it don't cost you shit,
It's not like efficient enough, you know what I mean? Like to really, like, you're not going to have a zero footprint.
No way.
The footprint, you can at least make it look good, you know what I mean, a little bit, but I don't know that there's a...
No, there's not. There's not, but I mean, when you think of other industries like mining coal and gold, and those are destructive industries too, you know what I mean? And
right.
So if we're looking at gold like a store of value and crypto like something similar, then they're so like this with the way they're damaging the earth, and I would argue that mining gold and metal is probably more damaging than crypto, currency, and the fact that we're getting better at it. Elon Musk is improving the battery every day.
Hold on. Y'all getting dirty in it.
Like, save those ingredients.
Hold on a second. All right, hold on.
It's for the right.
Yeah. All right, what's up, Freaks and Geeks? It's your boy Rick Dunn. We are back with another Bloody Nerd podcast, and I'm here with my brothers in all things geek chic. Today I'm joined by Mr. Graven Ravenwolf from the Art of Ravenwolf, Mr. Frankie Hovers.
Rock stars.
Yes, rock stars. We gotta make sure we get all the rock stars out there, all the rock girls too. Mr. Frankie Hovers himself from the almighty Flying Junkies. Say hello, sir. There you go. And last but definitely,
how we doing out there?
Last but definitely not least, Mr. Ellie Black from the infamous and most loved VoicePlay, the A Capella group. My favorite A Capella group, if y'all don't know that already.
Mine too.
It's more than.
Today we're gonna get into something that I've seemed to be running up against more and more every day. It's like running into a wall, and as much as I've tried to say, yeah, I'll get into that later, it just seems to be hitting me up in the head like McFly. You need to know about this. And actually, two of the people that have continually brought it to my attention are in this podcast. So that's one of the reasons why we're having this podcast. So Mr. Ellie and Mr. Frankie over here have brought it to me and Graven. Me and Graven are kind of the novices on this one, and we're gonna
Fortunately,
yeah, we know the least amount about this topic than Frankie and Ellie over here, who are a little bit more into this than we are. So we're kind of gonna ask some questions and be flies on the wall and learn a little bit today. We're gonna talk about cryptocurrency and NFTs. So for those of you who don't know, everybody on this panel in some way, shape, or form is an artist, from music to graphic design to sketching to painting, whatever you want to call it. So we all delve in the art world. So the NFT thing is definitely something that we've been talking about more and more. So we figured, hey, let's get together and just have a little powwow and see what we can learn from and maybe we can do some big things here in the future. So if you don't know, my friend Frankie here, who's kind of in the lab over here, and just so you know, those are toys behind him. But don't let it, don't be fearful. He's a teddy bear. you know, he's the lab. He's the Mr. Professor over here in the lab. He knows. He's the closest friend I know that I would say the closest person I know to a hacker. Like, I think he's probably the closest person I know that's closest to a hacker. That's kind of his background. So,
are we talking zero cool here?
You know, yeah. I mean, you know, I don't want to get nobody in trouble. Let's move on. Anyway, but yeah, no. So
Crypto is the bank you're allowed to rob.
Okay, I mean? All right. Well, see, there we go. I like that idea. Let's talk about that. But yeah, no. Let's get into some crypto stuff, and you know, I will ask. First things first, I'll ask Frankie, and then I'll let E if he wants to chime in as well. What is cryptocurrency?
Cryptocurrency. Well, first off, let me thank you for that amazing intro. I appreciate that. I don't know that I've been equated to a hacker, although I do have an IT background.
Yes.
So I'll preface it with that. And like you mentioned, I'm from music, art on many levels, and I dabble in the drone game. And cryptocurrency is kind of a more recent thing for me. And I got into cryptocurrency because of investing, which I got into investing, which I'm talking stocks, right? I got into investing because of saving money. I was trying to find a way to save money. And every time I went to the bank, they were giving me nothing. It was pennies on the dollar. So, you know, keeping so many thousands in the bank, after a year in, I'm making $10. It was almost like, this is pointless. I could keep my money under the mattress and do better, you know? So I looked into ways to save, and investing came up in that, because the average investor, believe it or not, and this is just stocks I'm talking here, the average investor makes 7 to 10% a year on not a really good portfolio. They got kind of a normal, you know, average portfolio, and they're pulling 7 to 10% a year, which was 10 times more than my bank was offering. So that led me down the road of, oh man, maybe I should get into investing. Started joining with different brokerages and learning about it. And I don't come from a family of investors. Like, my mother and father weren't big investors. Nobody in my family, I don't have friends that were into it, you know. The only thing I knew about investing was Boiler Room, you know, the movie, you know, and just things like that. It's like, you know, Vin Diesel knows how to invest. Maybe I should, you know, I don't know. But so it just kind of led down, one thing led to another. And I saw some cryptocurrency things, and I always knew people could mine on their computers. And me having a background in IT, I could build a computer, and, you know, I knew all about graphics cards from my video editing background. So it was almost, you know, it was kind of a one-on-one dance with, should I do this? Should I try this? So I ended up investing in some cryptocurrency, and my returns were ridiculous. I was seeing major returns, you know, and this is stupid Frankie investing. I'm just like, I'll buy this coin because it sounds cool, and I'll buy that stock because it sounds cool, you know. And then I started following these guys online. I'll give them a shout out real quick. They're called Earn Your Leisure. And they talk a little more street about the stock market. So it made me understand investing a little deeper, you know. So between stock investing and cryptocurrency, I just kind of went down that road and fell in love with I'm in love with the crypto, you know. So let me give you one real quick. You asked what is cryptocurrency. I'm gonna give you the definition of what an NFT is and what a blockchain is. Okay, and I wrote this down just so we can all kind of be on the same page, because I'm trying to learn as well, and maybe sharing with you guys, you know, to help us understand. So an NFT. NFTs allow you to buy and sell ownership of unique digital items and keep track of who owns them using the blockchain. NFT stands for non-fungible token, and it can technically contain anything digital, including drawings, animated GIFs, or GIFs, depending on who you ask, songs, or items in video games. That's something we should touch on later. An NFT can either be one of a kind, like a real-life painting, or a copy of many, like trading cards. The blockchain keeps track of the ownership of the file. Right? Now, what is a blockchain? Define a blockchain. A blockchain is a digital record of transactions. The name comes from its structure, in which individual records called blocks are linked together in a single list called the chain. So there's your blockchain. So the point of cryptocurrency, you know, part of the cryptocurrency craze was to go off the map, right? We want to create a decentralized, you know, non-government intervention currency. And in doing so, we created a technology that can house data and information. So, you know, the thing about cryptocurrency is you have to question yourself whether it's really a currency or whether it's really a technology to store data and information in, you know?
So that's a great distinction that you're bringing between the technology or platform that is blockchain and the different ways that blockchain can be implemented and the uses for blockchain to create something that is a currency is one way. That's been the first mode that people use the technology in order to get it to be popular, something that people could grasp onto. But then to create this concept of scarcity, created scarcity, by making sure that it requires a lot of different people to be able to create a single unit of this sort of unit that you have deemed. So in this instance, you might be talking about a cryptocurrency, or a ether or whatever whatever the dollar is for that unit of currency. But then there's also these other things called NFTs or non-fungible tokens, which are like, a coin, let's say, that can hold on to information, and that information cannot ever be changed because of the technology is the same that makes this coin a unique coin.
Yeah.
It is a sprawling concept.
It really is. When you think about, so what you mentioned is powerful, because we were trying to define cryptocurrency, and you're absolutely right. There is a distinction, sort of. We'll use Bitcoin and Ethereum, the two top cryptocurrencies, one could argue, right? So Bitcoin, while it is traceable on the blockchain, you can see when the transactions are going through. It's not as easy to store something like, let's say, the deed to a home, which Correct. You can do with Ethereum or things based on Ethereum. You can take the deed to your house and pack it into that coin.
And I think that I might be wrong about this, but I think that Ethereum or one of the crypto currencies were actually invented as a currency, just as a way for people to know what it was, so that way they would eventually accept this concept of smart contracts. Is basically what Ethereum was built kind of on, the concept of smart contracts. And so I think that the Ethereum's value may not only be just attached to, and likely is not only attached to, the value of its currency going up and down, but there is sort of a useful alternative methods of using the technology that is Ethereum for other things. And that's what we're talking about in these NFTs, or just take the concept of smart contract for a second, which is really what NFTs are kind of based on, right? Is the idea that, just take the two words, smart and contract. We know that a contract is when, we agree to exchange goods or to some sort of terms, services or whatever it is, right? And we have that written down in some capacity. But if somebody doesn't follow through with the terms that are laid out in that contract, then if it was Frankie and I that had the contract, Frankie's got to go now to his attorney, who's got to take me to court, and then somebody's got to enforce the concept of this contract, right? Well, with a smart contract, the smart part about it is that all of the remedies essentially for breaking the contract are already laid out, in theory. And so it's automatically done. The contract is reverted. A place where this is happening now, today, and they're starting to build is the concept of DeFi or decentralized finance, right? Where now, if I'm a lender, I'm trying to think of a simple way to do this. If I lend Frankie $1,000 or something, right? And I say, well, you got to make your payments, at 2.4%. I'm giving him a great percentage on his loan. Is the percentage he's got to pay back. Then, he if he misses a payment, maybe I say, okay, you missed one, but you have to pay both of them back by the next one or something. But when he misses the payment or whatever, and he's broken that contract, there are rules already stated about what happens then. And so there are different ways that people can use their own cryptocurrency wallet to help to make the or future value of their cryptocurrency as something that they can borrow against. You know what I mean? So it's a very unique way of doing this. And then the safety of the person who's lending the money is that it's backed by these assets that the person already holds. You see what I mean? So if they break their contract, I automatically take Frankie's Bitcoin, or his Ethereum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's backed by something. You're absolutely right. It has. I'm glad you brought that up because I had wrote that in the notes here about, the smart contract thing. It's one of the things that makes the cryptocurrency in general, but more the Ethereum package, very powerful, is because you can set terms. Like you said, we can say, the value of this painting has, for if someone wants to show it in their gallery, we're going to let you do that for 2 days at 4% of whatever you make, So we can set those terms. So that's very powerful when it comes to, what cryptocurrency is. As Rick was asking, he was saying, let's define it. Let's try to figure out what this thing is,
I think that the platforms for this, so like more of the fun and games, and you guys jump in, if there's, if there's something you don't understand, or if I'm talking in circles or something, call me out on something, please. I would love to talk to somebody who's you said before, Rick, that you're a novice at this. I mean, honestly, the whole world is just different levels of novices right now.
Well, yeah, it's like the Wild West right now. Which is,
I applaud that.
Which is Frankie brought up the other day we were talking. This is definitely like the Wild West right now with this whole thing. So yeah,
this is like I kind of conditioned this to kind of like the early days of Napster and LimeWire. This is that precedence where we're starting a whole new process. Rather than dealing with digital audio and music, we're dealing with digital finances. And so it's kind of the same thing. It's just in a different way of how you're gathering that and where you're storing it and what value you're added to those types of things. So it's just a little different than that.
It's an interesting way to put it because if you think about the concept of file transfer, so the internet existed, right? We had the internet, and that was like a big, whoa, that's going to make a lot of things happen. And then they were like, yeah, but I want to send these files to people, like big files, small files, whatever. And then the concept of file sharing was a technology that everyone knew was going to change the game. And then that went on down to other companies. I think there was one in New York called Pando for a while that was like, different ways to make packets of files that lots of people could hold on to. Right. And you could download it from multiple places. So it was a decentralized download that was happening, right? Yeah. And so in some ways you're not wrong. This is taking the concepts that were laid out in those things and just saying, well, okay, I want to decentralize this problem or this math problem.
Graven, that's a good point, Ellie, not to cut you off, man, but Graven, that's a good point you bring up, because when you said it, Napster immediately made me think of BitTorrent, which was what came after Napster.
Absolutely. I forgot about BitTorrent.
BitTorrent, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
I think of the word torrent. That was exactly what I was looking for, was the torrent file exchanges.
I forgot about BitTorrent. Man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or LimeWire or any of these companies that exist. Pando was one that essentially you would hold. I think that they started with small groups of people, like a whole company would have its files separated out into lots of different places, so it wasn't in one. It could be an international company, right? And that's how they started it. So you could I need this file, and it's hung up here, but 75 people have the file. I just need one instance of it, but it's hung up or whatever. Then it would just go and check out all the different ways it could download it, and it made downloading files a lot faster. And to your point, it definitely. It is the dawning of a new thing, and that is what the technology of blockchain is creating. And now we're starting to see further implementation of the technology such that it can be useful in our daily lives. So all of the different tools and, like smart contracts, for example, all of the different ways that can be laid out. I mean, that's all in code. But if a guy like me goes, I want to go ahead and set up my own smart contract with somebody, it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. Like where do you go right now? That company doesn't exist yet to make that a simple concept. It's more a tool that is used by companies that have a very specific way that they want to use it. There's not like a hey general smart contract. These NFTs are about as close as it gets.
It's not Walmart yet. It's not Walmart and 7-Eleven yet. You're absolutely right. And that's why I think it's interesting, because there's only so many times in our lives where we see things change. The iPod, the MP3, Graven mentioned the Napster. These are moments in our life where we can see a distinct change. Cell phone towers going up. We can see a distinct change. And I remember being asked to invest very young in cell phone towers and laughed at it. Even though I had a beeper and I had a cell phone in my life,
Me too.
So we're in those times now again where we're seeing these new things, and it's kind of scraping. How long have artists been trying to protect their stuff? We're still wondering if it's the real Mona Lisa we're looking at.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the answer to that.
Well, that's to bring it back around, because I know that this is, you're heavily focused on all of the fact that we're artists of some fashion or another, is that this what's happening now is it's like a gold rush mentality towards NFTs. And I'm sure anyone can sort of objectively look at it and be like, there's a bubble. If not, there's gonna be. And what does that mean? What is a bubble bad or good in this circumstance? And I think the only thing that you have to worry about is and we can probably get more detail about this, is if people are just aimlessly buying into NFTs, if I'm the artist and I say I've been looking for a way to make money, I'll do anything to make money. Well, this is a good opportunity to further build your community first off, because there's a lot of focus on NFTs, and so people are interested in it, and it creates a conversation, right? And that's a good thing for communities, So, but if you make an NFT just for the sole purpose of getting other people to buy it, and you don't care who it is, well, eventually somebody's going to be upset because they're going to have purchased something that doesn't have any value to them, and then you got Beanie Babies or something, right?
Yeah. Here, can I Ellie, can I jump in on that real quick?
Please
do.
So,
and maybe Rick and even Graven can kind of jump in on this too, but what you're saying is true, right? You're right. Right now we're in a Beanie Baby stage for NFTs. People will buy any piece of shit on the map. Oh, it's got Beanie Baby on it, I'll buy it, You're right, but here's the thing. We got to remember, right? We have been dealing with a publishing system that is antiquated for years, right? You have Rick, you may know a little bit about publishing because you've done things for money where you get a flat fee for it, right? You leave the studio and then later on it gets put out and you don't get any of the publishing. And there's companies like CSEC in, I believe that's Canada, BMI, ASCAP, right? You have the bookmakers, Random House, right? So when you think of it like that, what this is doing is changing the game of publishing. You and I now, me, you, Ellie, Graven, we can start our own little 4-man band. We can package that into an NFT and own it for the end of time and prove that we're the originators. No going to court and trying to go, okay, you guys have to explain to me where's the copyright guy? Where's the proof of the song? What keynote was it in? It's all there in a key that they can pull up and go, well, you guys are the original owners. Nothing I could say, It's like a license plate on a car.
And just to be clear, I don't think that Frankie's suggesting that people should not copyright their work too. I think that he brings up a good right now because the systems are so new. But it is an interesting concept that now there seems to be irrefutable evidence of when somebody formed an NFT, and that can't be argued with because of the blockchain technology that backs it, and people are trying to blow up blockchain, to make it not as perfect as it seems to be, but I think that it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. If you even just look at graphs of people who have I wish I had it ready, graphs of people who have eloquently put out how blockchain works in some sort of visual graphic, you'll look at it and be like, that looks so simple, but then you'll try to wrap your head around it and look at it for a second and be like, that's blowing my mind a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's where I've been.
I have to find
this whole time. It's been, it's been blowing my mind. Well, I mean, it does seem simple. It does seem simple in some instances, but then at the same time,
I was gonna say, but maybe it's better, like, just for our time, like, maybe if we accept the fact that blockchain is probably a pretty good, like, like, we're probably not gonna have any, like, integrity issues, and then if we can say, if we, the four of us on this conversation, accept that the integrity of blockchain is absolute, like, I don't know what the future holds. I'm not telling anyone, but for our conversation about, like, what you should do if you've accepted that as a truism, then I feel like that maybe will get into the conversation about, like, what should our artists do and why should they do it?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
I would also say, too, that, I mean, this is from my minuscule understanding of things. I think we also have to face the reality that the whole Bitcoin process, the whole cryptocurrency process, has been going on a lot longer than what it is right now. I think people are seeing this and believing that we're at a precipice of just, actually this is new, it's brand new. It's not new. It's been around for a long time. It's just now mainstream has their eye on it, and that's all because of the NFT process.
Yeah.
So you have people, I'm sure, like Frankie, who got in a little earlier on learning and understanding that process. Even EU getting into it a little sooner than most. You know, if you guys have people, there's tons of people out there that are already in the day trading area, the stock market area, that has been aware of the cryptocurrency idea and have also been utilizing it for their own benefit to some degree. And I'm not going to say in secret, but in silence somewhat, because it's not in front of our TVs. It's not everywhere, so everyone can just go ahead and know what it was and what it is and what it does. And it's been a little taboo as well. And that's because of certain social political structures trying to make it taboo, because it affects governments, and it affects banking structures, and it affects all that. So if you have something that's so fresh, so nuanced, that has the potential to, like you say, decentralize financial institutions to some degree and give more power to the added individual or civilian, this is something that's even bigger than what we're talking about. But it's been happening. And so now we're dealing with it from on the face of everyone now kind of got a tip. And so everyone's rushing the market because of that now. And everyone's wanting to get in real quick now because it's a thing. And it really is happening. So the blockchain process that you guys were talking about, I would believe, to understand, and you guys can correct me, is technically I think that's probably been happening to some regards already. It's just now it's being applied to the NFT process as a digital signature process for this stuff to verify and to, set contract boundaries and be able to have a firm set in what people own and what is theirs. So I think you can trust it. Going back to what you was saying, which is why I'm talking about this, is it goes back to the process, is that this is why I believe that we can trust it to some degree. It's still evolving, but I think it's already worked out some of those earlier bugs based on people being in this atmosphere already, just maybe not in the mainstream area.
I think the word token is a good, Frankie, to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but like it's essentially like a Bitcoin is a token, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, that's what it is. And so just to have created this thing, it's a non-fungible token. You know, some tokens are fungible, which means they can be changed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the point of this is that you can create something that's a non-fungible token. So they just said, oh, well, we got to just continue to make people understand what this is. You got to call it something, Mm-hmm. And so an NFT is not a bad, it's kind of a catchy term.
Let me jump in on that, because that got me excited there. So the whole tokenizing of it, yes, Bitcoin is a token that can be broken down into Satoshis, which are, think of a dollar broken into pennies, right? Yeah. So one Bitcoin represents the dollar, the Satoshis represent the pennies. As far as Bitcoin was before Ethereum. So when I look at it, I think of this as cryptocurrency 2.0.
Right.
So like Bitcoin was the 1.0, and then Ethereum comes out and smart contracts come in, and it kind of 2.0s the game a little bit.
Yeah. And I think they're even actually coming out with Ethereum 2.0.
Right. They're about to that's exactly right. They are actually improving it. Yeah. But that has more to do with fees. That's the thing you got to understand. As a purchaser of cryptocurrency and as a miner, there's fees that are involved in these transactions. And Ethereum is very high. It costs like 20 to 40% of your money to just transact. So they're trying to fix that problem. While they perfected the problems with Bitcoin by making smart contracts and including those things, there's other issues with it that we have to kind of tackle.
And just for the public, and for you guys, that I believe what Frankie's referring to is called gas fees.
That's right.
The gas, the gas is what makes the engine go, which means that the people that are mining and helping to solve the coin to verify your NFT is the NFT, so to speak, or to create the NFT, that process has an expense associated with it, and that expense is called gas. Because it makes the engine run. So interestingly enough, and listen, I can go in 1,000 different ways here, but when I hear people talking about, oh, well, what's the concern? Because this is what I get a lot, is I get why haven't people accepted, why was Bitcoin as taboo, as Graven said, and a lot of what he said is spot on, you know what I mean? All of those things are definitely, just truisms, they're true. But the other thing about it is that there are genuine concerns on the other side of the coin in that, and there's arguments that go in both directions. But the concept of Bitcoin is that the reason why it has value is because of the scarcity that's been created because of this massively big problem that's been created. But it's also because people want to use Bitcoin. They want it's people's demand for Bitcoin. You know what I mean? If it wasn't the first, I don't know that it would be as popular as it is. You know what I mean? Or the first certainly to get popular like this. And then on top of it, the value keeps going up. It's kind of volatile, right? We can say it's volatile, right? It's super volatile thing. But why do you think that the price is going to continually to go up versus is this a bubble and it's going to break out? The thing is that if you put a lot of money into Bitcoin, what do you actually have? What do you own? You don't actually own anything.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think Ethereum kind of fixes that store of value problem.
That's why I was saying that I believe Ethereum to be a little bit more the first one, or at least the most famous crypto. Let's call it what do you call them? Instrument, crypto instrument. Let's say, because when you say currency, it gets strange. But a currency is an instrument, for changing value with somebody, right? Or giving value away, receiving it. Yeah, it's an instrument. So it's a crypto instrument that yes has value in the same way that Bitcoin. But if you just take that part of it as a currency away for a second, it's the first time that I've found a place where people are using it in such a way that now I can have an agreement with somebody, or I can create a new piece of art in a format that doesn't exactly exist, in any way, and I can say this is the first one, and I say it's the first one, and so if you want to own it, But who NFTs have value to are the same people, or the people in the community that care about the artist, I have some of Graven's art, and I have some of Rick's stuff. I'm huge fans, I've got, back to the old records that you and Rick used to do, Frankie, obviously I think you guys are incredibly talented, but more than anything, I love the artists, so I understand where people are how do I use this? And I think you use it to have a further conversation with your community.
Well,
I'm glad you brought up the art, from Graven and Rick, because these are two of the most prolific artists that I see. They're just amazingly talented people, and I've seen some of their greatest works just kind of fall into a notebook somewhere. So I would love to get their opinion on how they feel about being able to store, let's say, Graven episode 1 of, my whatever it is, right, 3-page series I put out, if you were able to store that and track the value of it, and then maybe at a meetup somewhere you could sell that to Rick and be like, hey, I'm gonna give it to you for $50, and you own it. And at that point now you're the second owner. You can take that and lease it out to the world or sell it to someone else. Let's think like for a second when I say that to you guys, to Rick and Graven, just in particular, just for the art thing, right?
For sure.
Think of that guy, Martin Shkreli, the AIDS medicine guy that bought the Wu-Tang album. Let's put it in that perspective, right? If Wu-Tang would have waited till now to put that in an NFT, how much profit they could have made beyond the little 1-2 million that they made, selling that to some guy that's, never going to let anyone have a hold of it. It's almost the same. It's almost what they were trying to do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. NFT before NFT.
Yeah, or do you guys have
t-shirt.
Any like another thing, a format you could do it in is like if you have any questions where we might want to focus, you know what I mean? Like, or if you have like, how do you do it? Or, like anything like that kind of, because it is a sprawling concept, like we keep saying, because you can use them for almost anything that you can think of is going to be possible to do this. Well,
I've been having a lot of conversations with Rick about this, and as well as you, E, and now it's great to have a chance to connect with Frankie on this too. And as you guys know too, my wife is also an artist also, and so she's very much into that industry too. And we've been dealing with looking at this in a lot of levels to try to see how it benefits artists in general. If we take and kind of separate this out a little bit, and we separate it to, let's say, all the minutiae of what we've been speaking about as far as sincerity, smart contracts, foundation of setup, and these things are already kind of handled. Let's just imagine for a moment that all the concerns that everyone has financially for these things to be real and true, so that there's no shadiness, so to speak, within Bitcoin and within Ethereum and Ethereum 2.0 and learning curve. Let's just put that to a side. And if we were to look at it just as an artist and say, okay, how does this impact us, and what should we use these tools for in order to move ourselves both as artists into another level of community, as well as building our own finances, knowing that comfortably, let's say, everything in that area works as it needs to, right, financially. So let's just, if we were to look past that, that's where I have to wrap my head into it too. I'm always going to continue to look at like the pros and cons, like what's the security in doing this, and the level of IPs and contracting with this because of the blockchain process, right? How do we utilize this to benefit us as artists? And that's been a lot of conversation that's actually been happening in a lot of art forums right now, even in the mainstream. And when I'm talking about the artist industry, I'm not just talking about music. I'm talking about more closer to my realm, like DC, Marvel, Image, major providers of comic books, as well as print art, things like that are also very much in this conversation. Because there's been an ongoing fight between traditional artists and their value of their work and how they sell it to the average buyer versus digital artists and how they add value to their work and how they get it out to the buyer. And the weird thing about this whole process with NFTs is it's finally putting a spotlight on that it feels like it's giving power to the digital artist, finally, and security to the digital artist, finally. And that's something that I'm kind of interested in knowing more about, because if I understand what you guys are saying correctly, and I actually had a conversation with one of my clients the other day about it, who's also in the art community and the comic book art community, there's potentially a way to take your digital art as well as your digital comics, so to speak, and be able to sell these things through these blockchains, these NFTs, and be able to get build a fan base out of them having your digital content that they can purchase one-off, so they can purchase collections off of. And therefore, it's going to change the game of digital artists, because right now, DC particularly, and this goes into copyright minutia, DC right now is having a big issue right now where they're trying to figure out how to handle this. Because of NFT, it's forcing all these IP companies with successful IPs to scramble. Because as an artist, and I'm just using this as a technical, layout just to kind of get people to understand it. If I took a picture of a piece of artwork that I drew that was not my own IP, and I created that right now, I could technically make an NFT out of it, and I could put it out there, and I could actually make money from it.
Yes.
And there's nothing DC can do. DC can't do anything to it, even to that particular argument that's been happening, because this is all new copyright territory. It's a production of subject of work.
So here's something, if I could touch it, not to cut you off, Ellie.
Sure, no, go right ahead.
This is actually touching on what Ellie was talking about, right? So when you're talking about that, here's where I think what you mentioned about having multi-layers. You said earlier you're going to have your stuff published by ASCAP, BMI, Random House, but you're also going to have a second layer of security in your NFT. So now you show up to court day, like, well, look, I got ASCAP, BMI, and I got the NFT. Now what are you going to do? You know, right. So that's where I think you get a stronger case for you owning it, where someone like Marvel, you know, DC, whoever, they're scrambling to go, okay, we need to make sure we got our publishing right, everything's up to date, so that when this NFT drops, we could sue the crap out of this person, and, you know, whatever, however they, you know, remedy that. You know, that's an interesting point.
There's a lot. There are always going to be little shifty things or ways that people figured out a way to, because the thing is that the one constant or unconstant, depending on how you look at it, is human beings, right? You know, like how we use the technology, you know, or get used to using the technology is what opens us up to people being able to take advantage of the situation. I kind of think of it this way. I think of an NFT as almost like partly a memorialization of a moment or an action of some sort, right? You know, so, you know, right now you could draw a distinction, whereas like Graven, I see your one of your art piece behind you, the one that you created there on my right side of my screen. You know, like if you took that right now and we just took a picture of it and we put it in an NFT in that file, right? And we tokenized that picture, and you wanted to say, hey, I have this NFT and I want of this, I want to sell it. Do you think that, to your knowledge of how you understand it right now, do you believe that when you sell this NFT that we're talking about, are you giving away the rights to that image?
I wouldn't want to give away the rights to the image.
No, I think that's the question.
No,
I think that's the question. He's asking, do you think you are? I think that's
a tricky question.
That's the question.
That's the thing. You have to understand the back end of it. Remember that you can set those terms. You can say this is a one-off, or I want you to have, like baseball cards, there's only 500 of them that exist. This is where it becomes powerful for the artist in terms of owning, you know, think of this as like for the comic book guy that draws, for the guy who does graphic artist, digital art, the musician, right? The photographer. This is the independent record label for those guys. This is I could do it myself. Yeah. Oh my God, you know? So it kind of, I don't know, it's dangerous. There's a lot of danger because of what Graven said, you know, about anyone can kind of snap a picture.
Let me use an example here, and this is what I'm getting at. I'll even use my wife as an example on this because of one of her pieces. She has an art line she's working on called Bittens, Itty Bitty Bittens, and she actually has a character called Cthulhu, which has been out on the internet for a while now. It was actually debuted as a T-shirt with a company called T Fury a few years back, and it went crazy, went viral. Tons of people were involved with this, with buying shirts and buying content, okay? So she had an original drawing. She drew it in colored pencil. It was originally drawn by her. She had that for several years before she decided to actually sell it to a buyer. But she still has the files and the high scans, and she still creates that artwork. And she can say she's got enough body of work to say that it came from her, because it's simple, it's very simple, similar to the other work that she does. If I was right now, one of my concerns is that this, because of social media, right? Facebook, Instagram, things like that, this imagery that we as artists put out is floating everywhere on the internet, right? And it's not really hard for someone the average user, to be able to save some of these images. If it's on your site, you can pretty much set up copyright protocols where it won't right-click and copy and save. But if they can go on Facebook and grab this content, and there may be digital markers within that image when it was uploaded to say, hey, this was uploaded at this time by this person to this social media platform. But they can still technically, from my understanding, grab that imagery and they can set their own NFT up for that. And basically, can they secure that for themselves as the original content owner versus her being the one that actually created the piece of work and scanned it and uploaded it themselves? You follow where I'm going with that? And therefore adding money value to somebody else who really didn't create the content to begin with. So how does that work out is what I'm curious about with all of this.
I found the raising hand feature.
I see that.
So yeah, it's a concern that you have to, like right now, all that's going to shake out. is all I can say about this. Like, obviously, right now, if you're concerned, I would say to an artist right now that there's an argument that says that if you're concerned that somebody is going to go to your Facebook page and make an NFT and pass that artwork off as theirs, then you should be making NFTs sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you have the earliest piece.
Good
you know.
point. Mm-hmm. So let's look at NFT real quick, if you don't mind me interjecting real quick.
Yeah.
Only because I wrote this down and I want to get it all out off of my Google Drive over here. So the word fungible earlier, Ellie, you brought that up. You were like non-fungible token, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So I looked up the word fungible and I wrote it down, and I was following this other guy he follows NFTs, and he broke down this whole thing about how. So let me read you the definition of fungible first, right? So fungible is able to replace. This is fungible, not non-fungible. This is the fungible. Able to replace or be replaced by another identical item, mutually interchangeable, right? So the non-fungible version is not easily replaced. So then the thing that blew my mind was the guy's like, this is where the term fungible comes from. It's fungi, like mushroom. So when you think of a mushroom, you can take the cap of a mushroom, you flick it, it drops spores. You're going to get more of the same identical mushroom. And mushrooms are known that you can keep them in spores for hundreds of years and they'll regrow as mushrooms, So that was just an interesting non-fungible token. The word fungible, what does it mean? Economics class, definition of fungible, if we will.
Okay.
It is kind of. Oh, sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
No. I mean, added to the amount of things I had no idea about. And when you talk about fungible, I had no idea we were talking about fungi. So yeah, I mean, go ahead, keep going. I'm still soaking all this stuff up as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, basically, real quick. Basically, like, I know one of the main things, like, is what Graven was talking about, is what's because I know in every conversation I've had with him, he, his trepidation about the whole thing is, I don't want to get in with the gold rush in the beginning. Everyone's running toward the cash register right now because this is a great thing and everyone wants to get involved. I don't want to put my hat in the game and then come to find out after the fact, like after this all settles down, that I get dicked over because I got in too early, or maybe I should wait until this settles down and people figure some things out, type thing.
All I can say about that for an artist today is that as long as you are willing to read, if I'm talking to somebody I don't know, if it's you, both of you guys, we're gonna talk about it and we're gonna make sure you're taken care of. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the concept of like not doing it for fear, I appreciate the fear, but the concept of not taking an action because of fear is something that I tend to fight against.
Of course.
I fly in the face of it.
Of course.
But what I would say is that know the terms. You know what I mean? Most of these, like OpenSea or Mintable, like our markets, for example, like they have very specific platforms for creating NFTs and terms that go therein, and most of them are such that nobody is transferring ownership or IP to somebody else, just that they're giving this exact thing is the artwork. Now, I think the NFTs would be a very good way as a new certificate of authenticity for an actual original piece of art, a physical piece of art. Instead of now where, like we were just talking about whether the Mona Lisa was a real one or not a real one, like just because they hold the certificate of authenticity, does that mean that that this artwork couldn't have been stolen? Mm-hmm. No, it's the same thing. If you have an NFT that serves as the authenticity, doesn't mean that this artwork is the original one that went with it, but at least you can say, I'm the one who has it and I'm the one who bought it, and you can see here my receipt as the NFT, and it works as a certificate of authenticity because it memorialized the moment that you purchased it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if you're talking about right now, do I think an artist should make NFTs? I think, this is what I think personally, is that if you have things that are collectible or a line of characters that have a similar style or type, and you genuinely make that art, because you do, I think that it's silly for you not to to at least learn about it and get into it, because at the end of the day, I've never seen an internet-based way for artists to make residual income ever. And one of the things that you guys may not know is that on like OpenSea or any of these situations where you can create NFTs, you can define when somebody buys your NFT. Let's say they bought it $400 or something. Let's just use a round number. And then later on, they sold it for $600. Well, you've set up terms in your smart contract that you get 20% or 10% or whatever you choose of that next transaction, and for the rest of the life of that of the transactions there. If later on people go, I'm holding all these NFTs and I didn't really even like the artist that much. Like, from an investor standpoint, if you were investing in NFTs, you were buying someone else's art, I would say caution. If you don't actually like the art or the artist, don't buy it. That's what I would say.
This is interesting. Can I jump in on that? So, if everybody here should remember the Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson beef over Michael Jackson purchasing the Beatles' music. And this is where that kind of touches on, here's guys in the 70s and 80s battling each other over ownership of music, and now you and I in 2021 have a tool to sort of, it's an extra grenade, a grenade. You got your gun, you got your pack, you're running down. Somebody gave you an extra grenade to throw in, and make sure that you're gonna live through. So now let me do something. Let me add a little bit of salt and pepper to the mix here, because I love where this is going, and I'm gonna give you guys use cases for why. Not just because it protects your stuff, it's a smart contract. It's you got to do it. Here are some use cases, and here's the number one use case that I found. Right, I don't know if anybody's familiar with. Let me pull it up here. The artist named Beeple.
Yeah, I'm friends with him.
He goes by Beeple Crap. Right, exactly. Okay, so this guy's classified by Google as an American digital artist, graphic designer, and animator. Okay, his piece was auctioned for. This is a digital piece he made. It was auctioned for $69 million. Okay, this is a digital piece of art wrapped in an NFT, sold for $69 million. And here's the catch. I'll give it to you right now, Ellie. Here's the catch. Monet, everybody knows who Monet is, right? Monet sold the painting. He's dead. He's long gone now. But whoever owned the painting sold in 2014 for less than that. They sold for, I had it written down here. I don't have the amount written, but it sold for less than somebody named Beeple that nobody knows, So, arguably.
And on top of that, that piece of artwork was a collection of all of his work over a period of years, dropped down into little bite-sized digital pixels that didn't make out a picture at all. Right. It was just a little. It was done on purpose. It was a test. It was a social Banksy, artistic digital Banksy version that he decided to do to see where it goes, because he kind of just didn't care. He wanted just to see. And so he did it as kind of a big FU to financial social classes to see where it would go, and look what happened. He proved his point.
That's a good point you bring up, because what they're trying to do is it's almost like a grab. You're saying to yourself, okay, this is the last frontier. I'm going to get every piece of artwork I have into one. Somebody can own it. I'm grabbing the bag and I'm running with it. So that's a use case for why I think you guys should all maybe put your art in there, because of the store of value there. Snoop Dogg, he did a collaboration with how do you say it? Nyan Cat? The meme, right? With the little cat that looks like a Pop-Tart flying through space. They sold that for 14.2 Ethereum, which is worth $33,000. It's called Nyan Dog. It's Snoop Dogg as the Nyan Cat, whatever it is, right? You got Elon Musk. He created a house song. It's a pulsing, it's like you're in a club in Ibiza going off. It's called NFT. He was offered $1 million and turned it down and said, I think it's going to be worth more now. I realize I have a Monet, a Dolly on my hands, and if I give it to you for $1 million, I'd be an idiot to watch the next guy sell it for 20. Can't leave out his baby mama, Grimes. She sold $6 million of digital artwork. Okay, and so when you look at it as, smart contracts protecting my stuff, that's one aspect of it. You have a second layer of security, but then there's this other side of the profitability right now on the upside before it becomes Walmart and 7-Eleven.
I think it's important probably to distinguish, I think that this is what the problem is. Crypto art is probably the term that we should use to talk about the product or the item that is what we're calling NFTs. But NFTs are actually a device or an instrument, right? And all I want to say is that crypto art is like the product that we're talking about right now of artists. That's what you can do right now to make money using this technology, right? And also to protect yourself. It happens to be that this other thing called a smart contract is part of the current process of creating an NFT for crypto art, right? And so as this thing continues, I mean, think about it this way: how popular do you think virtual reality is going to be? How much time do you think we're going to spend in virtual reality or in augmented reality on in social environments? How do we think that the social environment is going to occur in those platforms? Does that mean that you know, like, do you think that it's going to be driven by the same people that drive it now? Like, we all go to Facebook to talk to each other, or we all go to Instagram, or we all go to Twitter to talk to each other. Was it always going to be like that? Or is it going to be, are there going to be other social communities? And there are now. You know, how much time, though, are we going to spend in a physical environment where now you're talking about land and, you know, like, you're talking about space in a community? That's why I keep talking about communities, because it really...
No, that's deep. That's deep, because think about it like this, right? Let's look at like what I love what you're talking about with the span of time. If we look at the average company, right, like a communications company like AT&T, Ma Bell, these are 100+ year companies. So is it going to be the new frontier of communication, that it will be 100-year plus company, or is this going to die in 20 years, you know, like some fad, you know, like slap bracelets or something, or pogs or whatever, you know?
I think when something is actually non-fungible, I think that it actually means that, by definition, not being ironic, means that it will stay around and be used somehow. Because it literally, if you're talking about math, and math is the only thing we know to be perfect. You know what I mean?
Constant.
And when something is perfect, constant, exactly. Then when something is like that, it only has a choice to be. It doesn't get left behind unless we just forget knowledge. You know, we choose to pull up ourselves, you know, or something like that. You know, so the truth is that I don't think it can go away. How it is used may change, which is why I was bringing this highly futuristic concept. But I believe that people today are already investing in trying to promote, like, you can buy space in this virtual environment. And I think that people probably, I've looked at buying virtual reality headsets. I'm looking at 2 different ones, and I may end up buying both of them, because one's for like virtual production and to be hooked to a computer, and the other one's like what the consumer world of you know, like, is using. And the truth is that if those people are already having a social interaction with each other using this, like finding other people that are doing this, how are they? I don't understand how they're doing it, because I don't have one. You know what I mean? But now, once you start realizing how people are socially interacting with each other, now you're going to start learning how value is built to them in their experience and interaction. You see what I mean? Like, there's that. You know.
What do you guys think of, like, the video game space? You know, let's say we create like a gun for a character,
Exactly.
and in Halo 1, and by Halo 3, that gun moves to the third version, and we're the NFT holders of it. You know, it's almost like Antique Roadshow. I'm bringing in the last, you know, rifle that George Washington shot, you know.
That's you exactly my point. Is like, that's a great concept. Or like, you know, the clothes, you know what I mean, that your character is wearing. You know what I mean?
Also,
like, how many, you know, and the other thing is, there's nothing that says that you can't do a run of 5 NFTs. They might look identical, but they're numbered 1 through 5, right. Just like an Andy Warhol did, you know, 5 prints of the same thing.
Yeah.
You know.
So wait.
So ultimately, this has a. Sorry, go ahead, boss. Go ahead.
Rick, think about
Somebody
it like
can
this.
do.
Think about it like this, Rick.
Yeah.
If you put up a filter, right, and it puts a hat on, that could be your hat in that Instagram filter that you own.
That's what I'm saying. So instead of
Yes. Yes. And this, right. And okay, but that happens now. So the difference is that because you can limit the number of copies that can be created of it. People can copy and make it look like it,
Yeah.
but if you have the NFT, it proves that you have the artists, you know, Dolce and Gabbana, or like you've got the actual one, not the knockoff. That's what the NFT proves, is that there is scarcity, and that's why I keep saying that it's for the artists and the creators to have a conversation with their communities, because if there's no value in the name Dolce and Gabbana, nobody cares if they have the original. There's no value in it
Mm.
unless it's something else. Now, if somebody else says this is an amazing artist, I believe they're going to do big things, and they have a plan, you can literally make your case to the art buying public. You can literally say, hey, I want to make money from this NFT so I can go and do this other thing over here. If you guys buy this and that thing's successful, your NFT is going to rise in value. So why don't you go ahead and buy my NFT for 13 Bitcoin or 13 Ether, and allow me to go ahead and start the process for my pilot using the characters that I've created in this NFT.
Okay, hold on a second, because now this goes back to Graven. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like now you're saying Graven can go, guys, I've drawn up, sketches of my characters. I'm going to make NFTs of these sketches of my characters that I want to make a comic book of. If you buy
That's
these
right.
NFTs, then you're funding my comic book,
Yeah,
essentially.
you can, and you don't have to. I'm not saying necessarily to put that in the smart contract or anything like that. Listen, it is the Wild West, so technically speaking, if you're a good enough coder, you can put that in there. I don't know why you'd want to. It's not to your benefit to lock yourself into terms that you don't have to go by. But if you wanted to just tell people, like, hey, community, and listen, if you lied to them and you didn't use the funds, or at least some of the funds for that purpose, then guess what? Your community is going to turn on you. You know what I mean? They're not going to like you. And if you go away, you're going to go away anyway. If I've learned anything from the work that VoicePlay has done, it's that continuing to create more is what increases the value. It's not, if you look at Suit and Tie, that we did, one of the first videos that we did, and you look at the video that we did now, you can see a very large difference in quality, right? Now, don't get me wrong, the world is a little bit going backwards in that people like looser quality now, right? When it comes to music videos, like you go to TikTok, they want to see you raw, all up in your face, singing. You know what I mean? But the truth is that it's okay to be loosely rendered today, so to speak, because you're just creating a dialogue, a communication with your community, and as you grow, your community will appreciate that you grew, and your value will grow as well.
Yeah, people seem to appreciate that raw aspect because I guess they feel like it's a little more genuine, like it's a little more one-on-one. It's not so produced. I guess the more produced, the more disassociated or
Yes.
they feel from the genuine person, and so the more raw it is, the more just you and a cell phone, the more they feel connected, so to speak.
Yeah. So honestly, when hype happens, viral hits happen on accident. You can try all you want, but the truth is it's the same thing when it comes to the gold rush mentality of this NFT. If timing and just the right product, cross up, could you make a Beeple happen? Maybe. You can't make a Beeple happen, but could you accidentally Beeple? That's going to be a new adjective.
Could you beep?
Like that verb.
I think with Beeple, I think what people are missing about this, with the $69 million take on this, is that Beeple has been in the upper echelon of digital artists for many, many years now. He's been a social commentary advocate for political aspects and changing this thing and being a voice through his art. It's the same thing as Chris Do with The Future and things like that. These artists are making these huge plays in their normal everyday life because it's what they do. So, having that's what helped accelerate these eyes on the situation that garnered him the viral sensation that he had. I truly believe that. So I think that's what it was.
That's interesting. You're gonna have to give me a little more on that, Graven, because my take on it was, who's that? Like I saw a few things, but maybe I'm not as engulfed in the art world, and I would love to hear like more of that viewpoint, because that gives it more of a backing, more of a maybe Monet and Dali weren't the shit in their day. Maybe they were, and now later on people wanted it, so maybe I'm seeing it like from the wrong. Maybe I need to get a little more education on that.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Sorry, you go right ahead.
I don't think it's wrong. I think that you're seeing that there are a couple different ways to look at because it's fine art doesn't mean that the old rules of fine art apply today. You know what I mean? Beeple was a little bit more. I used to say like this. Justin Timberlake was the biggest artist at the time when I started saying this, like just the biggest. And I would say, listen. To people who were like concerned, like I had concerned like parents and stuff that were like, are you sure you want to stay in this music thing? And I'm like, it's going okay. Like, they're like, and I was like, listen, I might not be Justin Timberlake, but between me struggling in a bar band, and having a good time, fine, but me struggling as a musician and Justin Timberlake, there's a lot of ladder to climb and a lot of happiness along the way. You know what I mean? So if people already started up here and he's a $69 million guy, can you guys be thousands of like
find a happy medium somewhere?
Yeah, I agree. And just to go back to what Frankie was wanting to know, I think to pin it down a little bit, I think that there was a lightning in a bottle issue with people, and I don't think a lot of people talk about. And the reason I'm talking about this is I follow him. I see his work on Instagram a lot. That's where I see a lot of his work. His lightning in the bottle, I think, came from the precipice of politics and Democrat Republican issues right now, because a lot of his work is like the Mad Max of political satire. He basically was creating art that was art of Donald Trump, art of Hillary Clinton, art of Kim Jong-il, and all these different characters, and Biden, and manipulating these in these type of surreal, gory looking commentaries that were GIFs and animated, as well as not just flat. And he was doing this all year long. And so he was getting a large group of people that were dealing with the social ire of politics and, voting and presidencies and everything and news, and bringing people into him. So he was rubbing people the wrong way like he wanted to. He was getting support like he wanted to, all through the last couple of years.
He had a lot of eyes on him.
So the presidency... Yeah, there was a lot of eyes on him. So you have all of that going on. He was making money already from all that. And then you add him taking that momentum and then putting it all wrapped up into this NFT nuance. Before you know it, it all hit right at the right time. So all of it was at a precipice for him. So that's kind of why I think that worked even better for him. If he wasn't in that realm, it doesn't mean he wouldn't have made money. I'm sure he would have. In that Banksy style idea, but would it have been the same amount? I'm not quite sure.
Wow.
But there's guys doing a lot less work per piece of art and making a great amount per NFT because they have a collectible, catchy thing. They're not going anywhere. They've established themselves as something. Listen, I get it that the OpenSea and the markets might end up acting as like record labels of sorts. You know what I mean? For artists, but you got to think that on some level, it does upset the balance in that any artist can take advantage of it and at least climb the ladder. You know what I mean? Like at least start to.
This is what scares the big companies. This is what has DC and Marvel scrambling. This is what has, these people scrambling that are like, oh my God, do we own our photo anymore? Like, maybe that's what some of the pushback is. I think it was Graven that mentioned it. There's a lot of pushback and a lot of like, the media is kind of shunning it in a way. And that's because as a media house, if you and I run CNN or we run Time Magazine, we own those photos of Marilyn Monroe. Now, if somebody can come along and snap a picture of my magazines, call it an NFT, and make $69 million, it's scary right now what you can own and take almost,
right. Right. I was telling Rick this the other day because we were getting into the whole NFT conversation, is that this is showing that not just digital art per se, but something as amazing. I don't know if you guys out there watching have seen it, but what you guys don't know about Rick, aka Zero Earth, this man is really good at meme creation. Really good at it, and really good at graphic design. And I was talking to him about that, and I was like, he's sitting on a gold mine of some amazing memes. And this is the beauty of NFT, from my understanding, is he could take those memes and make money from them. He could do digital memes and upload those and have some ownership to that too. So that's an interesting thing too. We're in a world where we can take a meme and make money off of it.
I think it's a little different. The concept of derivative works off of something that exists already. Like, I think this is where, when you're talking about like big companies like DC, let's use one of those. If somebody were to upload their comic book into an NFT without their permission and say, I own the original of this, and they don't own the IP, so they have to know who to sue. You know what I mean? Like, and so if they put it on OpenSea, or Mintable, DC is going to go to Mintable and they're going to be like, hey, yo, you can't sell that. That's not theirs. You know what I mean? So there is like a thing that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Well, yeah.
It's going to happen. There are going to be rules that are going to happen from this. And the reason why it's going to happen is because these big companies will get together and they're going to say, protect our IP. You know what I mean? And in a way, that's going to be good that it happens, because it's going to set up the rules. It flies in the face of, how open do you want things to be? It's such a big conversation,
Yeah.
But the idea for like you, the artist, Rick, or let's go back to what you were saying about Rick creating a meme. If Rick took the photo and is the photographer and generated a meme that is clever or something, or even if it's not, but he owns the rights to that photo, then I can see that we're unencumbered. He'd be able to create an NFT of that meme, and if somebody appreciates it. But if you take someone else's photo, generate a meme, you get into copyright when it comes to whether this is a derivative work or not. There is copyright law that's going to make it confusing. It's a little cleaner when you talk about original artists and you're talking about artwork. That's why it works right now.
Yeah, but you've got a lot of people.
Maybe with technology catching up, the way people turn on their phones nowadays, and they say, "Hey, look, I'm making a piece of art," and they film themselves doing it. Maybe there needs to be something that's like an instant NFT, where it's like, the minute I publish it on TikTok takes it, turns it into an NFT that proves I painted it on this day at this time. Then the painting becomes worth, which makes it so hard, because now as an artist, you have to document your document so that you have a document. Yeah,
you're talking about creating an app. You know what I mean? And the truth is that so it's a little tricky, because you either have to work with a company like OpenSea and sell them the app, right? Or generate something like that, because then it's about where the gas fees happen, right? Whether or not the second that you do it, you've spent money now. Every time you take a picture, you're spending money on generating the NFT. Or is it that, I created an NFT, and you got to think there's a lot of like environmental concerns because of all the computers that are crunching to what the gas fees are for, and all the energy that's being used. So there are a lot of reasons on that product that you're talking about that I think is worth talking about for sure. But that's why it doesn't exist now. You know what I mean? Like it's the only reason. But what you're saying is such that somebody might choose to be bold enough and take the expense to make everything art. And if they're just that interesting of a person, they'll make some money today. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I think you have to throw your fears away a little bit. What I like about some of these companies is that they're willing to put the gas fees on the purchase side. instead of making you pay for it up front. And I think that that's pro artist. And at least on the surface, I don't know enough about the companies. Like I said, I'm still a novice too, like everybody else. But the concept that they're willing to say, hey, I'll tell you what, let's put the gas fees on the backside so the artists can make their NFTs. And if somebody wants to buy it, then it's an expense of the NFT. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, those are the companies that I would suggest for artists to maybe look at, in the beginning. Yeah. And certainly that we will look at you guys.
Well, real quick, Frankie, if you could just give like a quick explanation, like what's the process of somebody creating an NFT? Like how does where do you go?
Well, the NFT thing is it's a lot like what Ellie said, is that you have to go to a
market,
a house. Well, I call them a house. You have to go to a publishing house. A lot like right now, if you make a piece of you right now, you and I sit, we do a 4-part harmony, we drop the beat on it. Graven does the artwork for the album. Now, how do we protect this? We have to go and get that taken to ASCAP, BMI, protect the art on the front of it, protect the publishing on the back end. So it's a lot like he said. He mentioned a few companies that can do that. I'm not in bed with any of these people. I don't really follow any of the big companies doing it. But if you look back at publishing, they're great examples. ASCAP, BMI, CSEC, Random House. There's going to be those companies. Are you in with those companies now? In the early stage, are you in with the big dogs that are covering the gas fees that are, so you have to kind of either decide whether you're a coder, a hacker, and you're going to tackle it yourself and start your own server and the whole thing to process all this information, or are you going to just go to a third party? I'm going to move to a third party and have them handle it for a fee, which is the same thing as going to ASCAP or BMI. You pay hundreds of dollars a year to publish your music on ASCAP and BMI, so you're going to have to go to a clearinghouse to get it done.
Oh, okay.
And then we're talking about for creating crypto art, the product of NFTs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're talking about today, right? Mm-hmm. And that crypto art could be music. Like I've definitely considered, maybe either making a tier on Patreon, specific to that, if a high tier or something, where if that's our community, that's the biggest, those are the most energetic fans of our community. And so if they get there and they're willing to support us at this level, on Patreon, maybe we let them have the NFT of the video, that we're creating. You know what I mean? And it would be worth it. The dollar is built into it. So that's a way that I'm thinking about. I don't make those decisions in a vacuum in my group, but it's an idea that I have that I'd like to present, to them and say, hey, what's the next best idea? Because they'll inevitably have 3 ideas once I tell them that one.
I'm sure people are going to ask this question, and I kind of want to clarify it a little bit too for maybe our audience is watching. People do not need to technically know about NFTs in order for them to get into cryptocurrency. That's a separate thing. So there's a separacy of being into Bitcoin and Dogecoin and different types of cryptocurrency, and they can create and garner funds from doing that type of trading and involvement, right? They don't absolutely need to do NFTs. That's just an additional way to make money utilizing cryptocurrency, correct?
Yeah. So NFTs, now that we've gone through all this, you probably could say that an NFT could be a cryptocurrency, could be crypto art. You know what I mean? But yes, there are different ways to use NFTs. And if somebody wants to invest in the currency markets that are cryptocurrency markets and wait for the swings on that to go in their favor, then that is one way to make money. You could be a miner if you're like a computer hardware hacker, as our man Frankie is. Then you can make money as a miner. And if you're an artist or somebody who can package media that you've created or that you own the rights to into this other tokenized thing that we're calling crypto art, at least I'm calling crypto art, then that's another way you could do it. The likelihood is that if you learn about cryptocurrency, if you go all the way down that rabbit hole, you're going to learn about NFTs and crypto art.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It's not. I'll say this: I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I a fiduciary. But I will say that one thing that I didn't learn until later in life is that investing is the keys to wealth. Things like real estate, investments. These are some of the keys to wealth. So look at like NFTs as an investment in your future. Maybe you buy into this NFT and your Eli Black and your stuff don't blow, but your kids may get some benefit off of that. They in 20 years that song may get pulled onto something and they own the NFT and it's in their will. Daddy left this to me, so it's a way of control. To me, it's just another layer of control. That's what it is to me. It's just another layer of controlling which is something that intrigues me because, like the room we're in now, we have artists all around us. Everybody here makes some form of art and we struggle for years on how to protect that, So here's this tool now for us to tackle that.
Let me ask you something, Frankie, though. What was the, Rick, help me. That you sent me the link to the album I used to listen to nonstop, and I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Yeah, this was so a while back. A while back. Well, back when we were in high school, when we used to do a lot of recording. We had an album. A group that we were in called Napalm Federation, and we had an album. And years later, Frankie, 99.9% of the music that we recorded in Frankie's studio, and Frankie's family had a studio, Rumsey Studio. So a lot of the masters and a lot of all that information is still in the lab where you see Frankie sitting in right now. So he basically one day went online to a website called Bandcamp and uploaded a lot of our music on there so as to make sure it didn't just disappear and it lived.
So just use that work as an example, and I think it's going to be funny to look at or it could be interesting to look at this maybe even a year from now, or less than that. It could be 6 months from now, look back on this conversation and go, oh wow, we thought it was kind of going this way, you know what I mean, but it really ended up going that way instead. But I wanted to bring up the concept of like, okay, Frankie, you've got this Napalm Federation album that you did back in the day. If I came to you and I said, hey man, I really like this one tune, a little section of it, you know what I mean? And I want to create some interesting, visual effect, that goes along with that thing, and create a derivative work. And we have an understanding about, what it's going to, I'm going to memorialize that in an NFT. And I just want to see if anybody's is into that, you know what I mean? And then, so that's a derivative work, you know what I mean? It doesn't exist as any other thing. It only exists in that format, so that work that used to only be one thing, it can be something else now too. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As so long as the artist that created that is willing to do that, because some artists say, no, that's not how it was meant to be. It was meant to be viewed this way. It was meant to be heard this way, and that's the only way I want it viewed and heard. And that's valuable. That's a valuable thing that an artist can decide too. You know what I mean? But there also is this other thing that has happened now, where because there's kind of a gold rush mentality, or there's more eyes on it, there's a community that's interested in memes and short form content and new ways to consume interesting things, that you can create something that's wholly brand new out of something that was old or something that was already done.
But okay, well, how does the NFT work? Like if we made an NFT of the album, and then you as this person came along and said, right, I want to take a piece.
For comedy's sake, it's the collaboration is, and not that I have like that big of a thing. I mean, we're doing all right, but let's just say it was like let's say we were best friends with Justin Timberlake, just to go back to that same thing instead of me, right? And it's just a funny thing for Justin Timberlake to be, rapping the lyrics to, basically lip syncing to your old Napalm Federation thing, right? And you throw that into an NFT and put that on the market, and you do a series of them, maybe just the hook. You know what I mean? Or just of each song. You know what I mean? You throw that on the internet. I mean, You know what I'm saying?
You own that. It's like, think about if a Hollywood movie picked that up and said, we're going to do a documentary on Justin Timberlake now. I want your footage. Oh, well, I own an NFT. I can easily get that to you without having to hire a lawyer, go through all the publishing companies. I can go, here's my NFT, here's my code. I transfer it to you on the blockchain for this price. You get one copy out of 200,
Yeah. See, you're talking about the New World Order, like a little bit, like I mean, no, seriously, because like you're talking about like fully decentralizing, and it, I'm gonna have to go here soon, but just to say, like, there's more you can go on, whereas if you start talking about, okay, well, are we really going to remove the record label, or is it just that maybe your record deals will happen differently? Your agreements with record labels will happen differently. I'll give you an example. I can't give you specifics, but I've been in like a negotiation with a company that there are some performance marks that we've talked about, right? And those performance marks are both in like a streaming sort of like analytics, online analytics, and in a revenue kind of way, right? So if I could dream up the concept that if these are the two benchmarks that have to be met before their license is renewed, that's how the contract works today. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we've talked about it. And so if they don't hit this, if I tie it to this bank account, or wherever the revenue is going to go to first, and that number has to hit a cumulative of whatever in the smart contract, and and the streaming views can be attached to a CSV file or whatever is official from the companies that we're talking about. And if they don't hit those benchmarks, then we get our license back automatically. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas if they do hit the benchmarks, it's automatically renewed for 3 years or whatever we decide on. You know what I mean? It's
going to matter if these companies, they're going to have to step their game up. Like, your average record label now is going to have to say to you, in our contract, we're providing you NFT services,
Well, for sure. Well, one of the things that we talked about when we were getting this conversation is the concept of catalog and which part of the catalog we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And so when you start talking about, like, okay, for example, we got videos on YouTube, we've got audio on Spotify, Apple Music, and that distribution stuff. We've got a fixed physical CDs and things, and now there are crypto art. You know what I mean? That's a whole other instrument now that might have to go into contracts. But at the end of the day, one of the concerns would have been like, well, what if they don't hit their benchmark and then they're difficult about reverting our catalog back to us? What if? What if you dream up to the sky? That's a problem. Well, now with smart contracts and with the correct mechanisms in place, which they are not currently in place, those things will become very easy and people can do business with a lot more confidence.
Cuts out the middleman of all the problems.
It cuts out some of the middlemen. Yeah, it makes things a little more efficient and should give people confidence, so long as blockchain actually is non-fungible.
Okay. Oh. Quick question, just to kind of get on the finishing of it, if you will, or the closing house side of things when it comes to NFTs. If someone's got an NFT and they end up putting this up, we've talked a lot about getting NFTs, understanding what they're useful for, how they can benefit us financially, things like that. But we really haven't touched on how you close that out. Like, where does the money come from? Where does that money go? How do you pull that money? How do you access that money, and so forth? And I think that's also important to get into.
Yeah. So that kind of goes back to Frankie's concept of a house, or of a market, or these companies like OpenSea and Mintable I keep talking about. Mm-hmm. Those are the two that I've done a lot of investigation on, and partly because of the where the gas fees happen, and as a way to make suggestions to my artist friends and for us to have a greater conversation about it. But there is what's called a wallet, a crypto wallet, and that crypto wallet is it's like an account, let's say, and the smart contract would be tied to this crypto wallet. Someone buys it, the ether goes into the crypto wallet, and then you're doing like if you went to do currency exchange, it's like digital currency exchange. If I want to go ahead and exchange my ether for dollars or any other what's called fiat currency, then fiat just means it's a government currency. It's taxed to tapped to that, whatever that government's value is, which is a whole other conversation. Then that's loosely the way that it works. Is that it's all based on a digital wallet, and those wallets have their own companies. Coinbase is one. That's a very famous one. I think. I can't think of it. There was another really, really good one that was like, this is a safe one to use.
Yeah. What's interesting about it is it's to sell these NFTs, you do have to have an exchange. You do have to have a cryptocurrency wallet. But when you hear the story, like I mentioned earlier, of people sold on the auction, what is it, Christie's auction?
Yeah. I think
so. What it reminds me, and this is just something I'm peppering in because it just hit me now. It reminds me of why people with a lot of money buy art in the first place. It's because they're trying to skirt their taxes. So you and I, let's say right now, off of the Bloody Nerd, we get a $20 million check from YouTube. Or no, let me put it a different way. I'm sorry. Let's say somebody gives us $20 million in cash, dirty money, under the table money, and we don't know what to do with it, right? And we want to launder that money. We want to wash that money into real money. So a lot of times you hear, like I heard, and this is what got me into this, is because I heard Lil Wayne, the rapper, said, I'm into buying art. And he has some really major pieces that are $20 million pieces. And I found this odd that he has an empty mansion somewhere with tons of art all over it. And I found out later that the rich go to these auctions with $20 million. And when they buy something on an auction block, they don't pay taxes on it. Right? And then here's what they do. They pay $20 million for the painting. They take it into their possession, give it right back to the auction house, and say, I don't want less than 30 mil. They get $25 million. They got their cash money back, plus 5 mil. The rich just got richer. So this is another form of the auction house and how you can kind of skirt taxes. Because I wonder what Beeple and all these guys are going to pay in fees, taxes. How's that going to be handled?
Yeah, it depends on how they're set up internally. It gets that's another 2-hour segment.
I can already see, man. I can already see the fire burning in this one, and the wheels turning. Let's put a cap on it for right now. But like E mentioned, this will be a very interesting topic to come back to. You know what I'm saying, in a couple months or whatever, and see how things have changed or which direction things have gone, and what's the differences since this is such a quote unquote new thing in the Wild West, the way things are going right now. So maybe we'll definitely think about coming back and revisiting this and give it some time and see what's changed and see how, if anything's changed for us, if any one of us has gained an extra $69 million. In a couple months, see how things have changed. I guarantee you the background of this video will definitely be a lot different. It's
gonna be Graven is unavailable to hang out with us this weekend, guys. It's the third week in a row. What the heck?
It's gonna be somebody video conferencing from their pool in some pool shorts. With their belly out in a nice movie theater margarita. So
some Sandals Resort.
Sandals Resort. So yes, we will.
You just see Rick go. Snapping at people.
No. You see Rick trying to.
Howard Stern.
You see Rick trying to get all the topless women out of the frame. No, stand over there.
There you go.
Over there.
There you go.
Rick's such a calm, polite. I should have used Raven because he's even more polite than Rick. You know what I mean? Like just calm, polite dude, just snapping their fingers at people. And
get off the frame.
True.
All right, so yes, we'll come back to this, everybody. I want to thank you guys for sitting in and having this conversation. It was definitely a great conversation. It's still a lot to kind of consume and kind of get into, but I'm looking forward to dipping my toe into it. Why not? Might as well. So obviously we'll have more conversations off screen, and then we'll come back to this and have more conversations on screen. So again, thank you guys. Real quick, just hit everybody with where they can reach you or check out your art or whatever it is you're doing right now. I know Frankie, he's got his own stuff. He's got his own stuff, Graven. So just we'll go clockwise, whatever. Start with Frankie and then down to Graven, and just let everybody know where they can get you, look at you guys or get at you guys.
First off, I want to thank you guys for having me on the Bloody Nerd. It's a true inspiration, and I'm blessed on some minds. You guys can find me at Flying Junkies everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the talks and the ticks. Flying Junkies, we're on it. Just pull it up. We're there.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I'm supposed to go.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Rock it, man.
Yeah, obviously, please check out VoicePlay. Just type in VoicePlay into any search engine or on YouTube. Or anywhere you consume music, and you'll find us. And you can find me on Instagram at I'm Ellie Notelli, or it looks like I'm Eli, not Eli.
Yes.
If you want to spell it that way.
Yes.
Anyways, check me out there, and let's be friends.
We'll try. No touchies.
For sure. And like always, you can reach out to me on artofravenwolf.com. I'm on all different social medias there. You can go up there. You'll see everything to connect with me. I'm also go as the alias Graven1, so you can reach out there. We do shows as well, me and my wife, and you can follow her work on the same page, Art of Monica Ravenwolf, right there under artofravenwolf.com. And again, thanks for having me on, guys. I always appreciate it. It's always good talking with everybody.
All right. And, of course, you know me. I am the Bloody Nerd, or the original one. And I'm going to be back again. We're going to do more talks. We're going to do more stuff. Keep an eye out. Come talk to us in the comment section down below. Just make sure you, keep it logical because, we don't talk to illogical people. That's just kind of one of my things, All right? So come back. Check us out. We love you guys. Keep the conversation going. We'll talk to you soon. Peace out.